What's up, guys? Recently I've been getting a lot of questions asking things like, how do I get a better read on my opponents? How do I deal with a counter fighter? How do I set my punches up better? How do I defuse a pressure fighter? And while these all sound like very different questions, they can actually all be solved with a similar solution, and that's feints. Feints are simply any movement that's intended to distract or deceive the opponent. So anytime I'm going to pretend I'm doing one thing so that I can do something else, that's a feint. Today we're going to talk about all the different applications of feinting using a very simple jab feint so you can see how versatile feints are. Okay, the most basic way to use your feints is to mix up your timing. If every time it looks like you're throwing a punch, you are throwing a punch, you become very predictable and very easy to read and time. So what you can do is mix up your timing with feints. Do you see how by adding in a couple fakes there, that jab becomes a whole lot harder to see coming and to read? And you're going to try to catch people reacting, relaxing, and in that moment they relax, you snap their head back. The next thing you can do to build your feints is you feint one punch and you throw another. So let's say I'm feinting my jab, I'm snapping my jab out there, and I got a guy parrying it. And maybe he's starting to reach a little bit for it because he doesn't know the time he's coming, he's a little jumpy. So I see that hand coming out, I'm gonna snap my jab out, feint, jab, come around the side with the left hook. So I get him reaching, come over the top of the left hook because I see that opening created by his reaction to my feint. Maybe instead of seeing an opening that and then punishing that opening, I'm just using the feint to change the rhythm of my combos. So maybe I'm going 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Do you see how I cut that jab short and I sort of shifted straight into the right hand and threw the right hand on the half beat? By changing the beat that you throw the punch on, you're going to catch people off guard in their defense. You can also use your feints to set up your punches by mixing up high and low. So I'm sticking my jab out, feint high, stick a jab to the body. That makes it hard to tell the target of the punch. So not only do you not know when it's coming, you don't know where it's going. And then you add back in your feints to set up your next punches, and things become way, way, way more confusing for the guy defending, right? So I jab, jab low, feint low, come high, feint low, come high, feint high, come low. Same thing. And I can attack all these different angles off of my feints, mixing up all the different targets and all the different angles of attack, and that's going to make it very hard to read these punches and see them coming. So that's how you can use your feints to set up your attacks. Now let's talk about using them, okay, to beat a counter fighter or someone who's taller, especially someone who's keeping you at range with their jab, using the techniques we were just talking about. So they're moving, they're feinting their jab, they're sticking in your face, they're changing directions. It's very hard to get inside on someone who can move and jab effectively. So one of the big mistakes I see people making when they try to close distance on someone like that is they follow them and they walk right into those jabs. So if I got a guy who's moving around and I'm trying to track him down and I overcommit to coming to where he is, well then he's gonna move out. He can wait for me to come, he can pivot out and stick his jab in my face. So if I overcommit to coming towards him, he's gonna go out that way, I'm gonna lose him, and I'm gonna have to turn and follow him, and then I'm just chasing him around the ring. Instead of doing that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feint, use my jab feint, then I'm gonna watch where he goes. And I'm gonna use a pivot on my back foot to follow him. So he goes this way, I turn right in there and I'm right back on him. Instead of coming here and then pivoting and then chasing after him, I'm gonna feint, see where he's going and get right back on him. The reason this is so effective is because even if he's changing directions and he's here and he's, I'm not going to lose track of him because I'm not going to overcommit. I use my feint, I see him go here, and he changes directions, well, I'm right back on him. And I can pivot faster than he can move around me if I'm using my feints correctly and getting a read on where he's going. So now that I can track him down, I can use my feints to follow him and make sure I'm keeping track of him. I then look to get inside and set up my punches. So again, let's say he's using that jab and he's snapping that jab out. Well, it's going to be very hard for me to get inside on him if I can't do something about that jab. And it's easiest to defend when I know it's coming. So a lot of people like to jab in response to your jab. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feint, wait for him to throw his jab back at me, slip in and counter. All right, so I'm tracking him down. I'm using my fork. Feint my jab, slip inside, overhand over the top. It doesn't have to be in response to his jab. Remember, the general concept here is more important than the specific techniques that I'm using. So let's say it's his right hand. You know, maybe he's got this really good reach and he pauses with the jab for distance, and once you're inside of it, he just unloads a really strong right hand. You can use that to your advantage too. Now I'm gonna feint, roll under it, and come body head. Again, it's not really that important what the technique is. It's important how you're using it to get a read on the opponent and then counter what he's doing to stop you from getting inside. Now let's do the opposite scenario. Let's say it's a pressure fighter trying to walk me down, cut me off, and beat me up against the cage or ropes or whatever it is. So if I'm just trying to move and just keep away from him, it's going to be very difficult because he's going to cut me off, he's going to use feints, he's going to set his punches going up high, low, everything like that. It's going to be hard to deal with. So what I need to do is use my feints to, one, get him to commit to a wrong direction so that I can move. So I jab, and I pivot off, stick my jab out, change directions, feint in, get out, and keep moving. And I mix up the timing on my movement. I take feint steps and I move. Mix up high and low. I do all the things we were just talking about, and that's to make it harder for him to cut me off. I can also use my feints to draw out his punches and to figure out how he's going to attempt to get inside, then punish him for it. So let's say he's using that slip overhand that we talked about just a minute ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feint, and I'm going to pull back. I'm going to try to get him to throw that overhand, to slip and throw that overhand. I'm going to come back, let it fall short, uppercut, hook, cross. Right? Feint. Just something like that. Again, the specific techniques aren't that important. It's the idea of drawing out his aggression and then countering it. Okay, so we talked about using our feints to set up our punches. We talked about using them to track an opponent, to get inside on an opponent, to draw them out. And remember, I've been showing it with pretty simple, just boxing techniques, but you can do this with any technique. One of the most common ways to mix up in Muay Thai, is the jab-teep mix-up. So you just, use your jab, use your teep, you feint your teep, your 1-2, and it all comes together really nicely. You can use your feints to set up your wrestling techniques, right? So I can jab, and I can come inside, and I could duck in for a takedown attempt. GSP used to do that to everybody. So don't take the specific techniques too much into account. Look into the concepts and see how they can apply to your game. All right, hope that helps.